There are two kinds of men in every room. The first kind needs you to know he won't be pushed around. Someone challenges him. He responds immediately. Someone questions him. He defends loudly. Someone disrespects him. He makes sure everyone witnesses his retaliation. He believes this makes him strong. He believes this earns him respect. He believes that answering every challenge is what powerful men do. Then there's the second kind. Someone challenges him, and something different happens. He looks at the person, not with anger, not with fear, just looks, calculates. Then he turns and walks away. No explanation, no defense, no justification. Just complete, calculated withdrawal. And that silence, that refusal to engage, creates something the first man's reaction never will. Uncertainty, because now the challenger doesn't know if he has won or if he has just revealed himself to someone who has decided he is not worth the energy. 500 years apart, two men understood this dynamic so completely that their insights still disturb people today. Machiavelli, watching Italian princes exhaust themselves fighting battles that served only their egos. And Sun Tzu, teaching Chinese generals that victory often looks like the war you never declared. Today, I'm going to teach you what these men knew. Not how to win every conflict, but how to recognize which conflicts don't deserve your participation, and why your ability to remain unmoved, to withdraw without explanation, to refuse engagement without apology, is the most dangerous skill you can develop. This isn't passivity. This is precision. Let's begin. The Trap of Constant Engagement. Sun Tzu wrote something in The Art of War that weak men consistently misinterpret. He said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Most people read that and think it's about negotiation, about finding diplomatic solutions, about being peaceful. That's not what he meant. What Sun Tzu understood, what every master strategist throughout history has grasped, is that engagement itself is often the trap. The moment you respond, you've given something away. Your time, your energy, your attention, and most critically, you've made yourself readable. Think about the mechanics of provocation. Someone says something designed to trigger you. If you react, what have you just revealed? You've shown them the precise mechanism that controls you. You've given them the button they can press whenever they want to dictate your behavior. You've handed them power. Not because you lost the argument, but because you entered it. Because you proved your emotions are accessible to them. Because you demonstrated that they can determine how you spend your finite energy. Every reaction is intelligence. Every emotional response is a data point they file away. Every defense you mount is a weakness they can exploit later. But when you don't engage, when you simply observe the provocation and then continue with your original trajectory, now you've created something entirely different. Unpredictability. They can't map you. They can't control you. They can't drain you. And that unpredictability, that refusal to operate according to their expectations, is what makes you dangerous. Because people fear what they can't manipulate more than what they can fight. A predictable opponent is a manageable opponent. An unpredictable one is a threat they can't neutralize. Sun Tzu elaborates. There are roads which must not be followed. Armies which must not be attacked. Towns which must not be besieged. Positions which must not be contested. Read that carefully. He's not saying, these are battles you might lose. He's saying these are engagements that shouldn't happen. Not because of weakness, but because engagement itself serves no strategic purpose. The masters of ancient Chinese warfare won campaigns, not by winning every battle, but by avoiding the battles that didn't advance their actual objectives. They understood something weak men never grasp. Every engagement has a cost, even if you technically win. Consider what happens when you win an argument with someone who doesn't matter. You've spent time you won't get back. You've elevated their significance by treating them as worthy of your effort. You've created resentment in someone who now has a grievance against you. You've demonstrated to observers that you can be baited. You've depleted your emotional resources on something that doesn't advance your position. You won the battle, but what did you actually gain? Usually, nothing. Sometimes less than nothing, because now you have an enemy where, before you just had noise. This is why Sun Tzu's wisdom is so profound. He's not telling you to avoid losing. He's telling you to avoid playing games that don't serve your victory. There's a difference. Losing is about outcome. Not playing is about strategy. And the man who understands this difference operates on a level most people can't even perceive. The pattern Machiavelli observed jump forward to Renaissance Florence. Machiavelli is embedded in the political chaos of Italian city-states. Families destroying each other. Princes fighting over every perceived slight, every challenge to their authority, every insult to their honor, and he sees the pattern repeating with mechanical precision. The rulers who felt compelled to answer every challenge, they exhausted themselves. They made adversaries everywhere. They fought so many small battles that when actual threats emerged, they had nothing left. Their resources depleted, their attention scattered, their energy spent on conflicts that didn't matter. But the princes who understood selective engagement, who recognized that some challenges were beneath their strategic interest, they conserved their power. They chose their battles, and when they did engage, they did so with overwhelming, decisive force. Precisely because they hadn't wasted themselves on meaningless conflicts. Machiavelli writes in The Prince, "A prince must have no other objective, no other thought, nor take up any profession but that of war." But here's what surface readers miss. He's not advocating constant combat. He's advocating constant strategic thinking. And strategic thinking frequently concludes that not fighting is the superior move. The weak prince fights every battle because his ego demands validation. The strong prince fights only battles that advance his position because his strategy demands efficiency. This distinction separates men who are genuinely formidable from men who are merely reactive. And this is the skill. Strategic withdrawal, the capacity to be disrespected, challenged, provoked, and remain completely unmoved. Not because you're afraid, but because you've calculated that engagement doesn't serve you. Why most men will never master this, it comes down to one fundamental weakness: ego fragility. A weak man's ego requires constant maintenance, constant validation, constant proof that he matters. So when someone disrespects him, his ego interprets it as an existential threat, and he must respond. Not because it's strategic, but because he psychologically cannot tolerate the idea of someone thinking less of him. His response isn't strategic. It's compulsive. He's being controlled by the very person he thinks he's putting in their place. Watch this pattern anywhere. Social media is the perfect laboratory. Someone leaves a critical comment. A weak man will spend the next 2 hours crafting responses, defending himself, explaining his position, arguing with someone whose opinion has zero impact on his actual life. Why? Because he needs that person, that complete stranger, to acknowledge he's right, to validate him, to confirm his worth. And what has he just done? He's given someone who matters nothing the power to determine how he spends his time and emotional energy. A dangerous man reads the same comment. Maybe he doesn't even finish reading it. And then he continues with what he was doing. Not because he's avoiding conflict, but because he's made an instant calculation. This person is irrelevant to my objectives. This engagement serves no purpose. My absence is my response. And here's what happens next. The commenter is confused. They expected engagement. They wanted a reaction. They got nothing. Now they're the ones thinking about him, wondering why he didn't respond, wondering if he even saw it, wondering if they mattered so little that he couldn't be bothered. His silence just became more devastating than any argument could have been. Where this shows up in real life, the workplace is revealing. Weak men get drawn into every office drama, every petty dispute, every political maneuver. They think they're fighting for respect, but they're actually just proving they can be baited. They're demonstrating that anyone who wants to can consume their time and energy just by creating conflict. Strong men see the same drama and opt out, not with announcements about taking the high road. They just don't participate. And suddenly people start wondering, why doesn't he care? What does he know that I don't? Is he above this? Is he planning something I can't see? Relationships are even more diagnostic. A woman tests a weak man. Maybe she creates distance. Maybe she picks a fight over something trivial. Maybe she flirts with someone else to provoke a reaction. And what does he do? He reacts. He gets emotional. He fights for her attention. He needs her to know he cares. And what has he just proven? That she can manipulate him, that his emotions are accessible to her, that he's controllable. A dangerous man in the same situation does something different. Egoist kiat. He pulls back, not as game, not as manipulation, but as genuine recalibration. He asks himself, is this person adding value to my life or extracting it? And if the answer is extraction, he withdraws his attention completely. And now she's the one wondering. She expected pursuit. She expected him to chase. Instead, he just disappeared. And that absence impacts her more than any argument ever could. Here's the uncomfortable truth that weak men refuse to accept. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're choosing not to engage. Your time and attention are your most valuable resources. And the moment you let someone else dictate how you spend them, you've surrendered power. Not in the fight itself, but in the decision to enter the arena. The difference between retreat and strategy. This is where men get confused. They think strategic withdrawal means running away. It doesn't. Running away is emotional. It's driven by fear. It's reactive. Strategic withdrawal is calculated. It's driven by assessment. It's proactive. Let me show you the difference. Retreat. Someone challenges you. Publicly. You don't respond because you're afraid of losing. Because you don't think you can win. Because you're intimidated. This is weakness. Everyone can sense it. Your absence communicates fear. Strategic withdrawal. Someone challenges you publicly. You don't respond because you've assessed that engaging gives them exactly what they want. Your attention and audience. You've calculated that your silence will create more confusion and doubt in them than any response could. You've recognized that this person has nothing you need and cannot impact anything you're building TZ's power. Your absence communicates indifference. The difference is internal. It's about why you're not engaging. Fear versus calculation. Reaction versus decision. And people can feel the difference, even if they can't articulate it. When a man withdraws strategically, there's a certainty to it. A finality, a complete lack of concern about what others think of his choice. When a man retreats emotionally, there's hesitation, second-guessing, a concern about perception. And that concern is the crack where manipulation enters. When to walk away, you walk away when the engagement doesn't serve your actual objectives. When the person doesn't impact your life materially, when the conflict is designed to drain you, not resolve anything. When you're being baited into reacting emotionally, when explaining yourself would require more energy than the situation warrants, when your response would give the situation more importance than it deserves, when silence will create more impact than words. Notice the pattern. These are all about calculation, not emotion. Weak men engage reflexively based on feelings. Strong men engage selectively based on strategy. Let me give you a concrete example. A man is building something significant. A competitor starts spreading misinformation about him. First instinct: fight back publicly, defend himself, set the record straight. But a strategic man asks different questions. Will my public response amplify this beyond its current reach? Will I appear defensive? Will I be giving my competitor exactly what they want? My attention and my audience? Maybe the strategic move is saying nothing publicly and letting results speak. Maybe it's addressing it privately with people who actually influence outcomes. Maybe it's documenting everything for potential legal action. Maybe it's letting your competitor exhaust themselves while you keep building. The point is, you're choosing. You're not reacting. You're calculating. And sometimes the calculation is that the most powerful move is no move at all. Developing the skill because this is a skill. It's not natural. Your ego will resist every step. Here's how you train it. Level 1. The pause. When someone provokes you, when conflict emerges, when you feel that urge to react, stop. Physically pause. Count to 10. Take a breath. Ask yourself one question. Will this matter next week? Not, am I right? Not, should I defend myself, but does this actually matter beyond this moment? Most of the time, the answer is no. And that pause, that moment of self-control, is where your power lives. That's the moment you choose strategy over ego. Level 2. Small withdrawals. Don't start with big conflicts. Start small. Someone says something stupid in a group chat. Don't respond. Someone tries to bait you online. Scroll past. Someone at work tries to drag you into drama. Smile and sigh. I'm staying out of this one. Each successful withdrawal builds the muscle. You're training yourself that your attention has value and not everyone deserves it. Level 3. The disappearing act. This is where it becomes powerful. When someone is toxic, draining, manipulative, you don't have a conversation about it. You don't explain. You don't give closure. You just become progressively less available. Slowly, quietly. Until one day they realize you're gone. No drama. No announcement. No burning bridges publicly. Just strategic distance. And here's what happens. They'll notice. They'll reach out. They'll ask what's wrong. And this is the critical moment, because your instinct will be to explain, to have the conversation, to give them a chance to understand. Don't. Because explaining is re-engaging, and re-engaging with people who've proven they don't deserve your energy is the trap. Instead, you keep it simple. Just being focused on some things. Vague, non-committal. True enough to not be a lie, but revealing nothing. Then, you maintain the distance. Level 4. Comfort with their discomfort. This is the hardest part. When you withdraw, people get uncomfortable. They'll call you cold. They'll say you're avoiding confrontation. They'll accuse you of being afraid. They'll try everything to provoke you back into engagement. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be comfortable letting them be uncomfortable. Letting them think whatever they want. Letting them fill the silence with their own narrative. Because the moment you explain yourself, the moment you defend your decision to withdraw, you've re-engaged. And you've lost. Your withdrawal only works if it's complete. If it's final. If you're unmoved by their attempts to pull you back in. Level 5. Strategic re-engagement. Here's the advanced move. Sometimes you withdraw not permanently, but strategically. You disappear to create space. To shift the power dynamic, to make them feel your absence. And then, when conditions are right, when they've had time to experience what it's like without you, when the power balance is shifted in your favor, you return. On your terms, with your boundaries clear. This is devastating because they thought you were gone. They thought they won. Then you come back, but different. More distant. Less invested. And now they're the ones trying to restore what was. But you never give it back, completely. Because you've learned the most important lesson. Your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. 2 pictures of 2 men picture the first man. He fights every battle. He's constantly in conflict. Constantly defending. Constantly explaining. Constantly engaging with people who don't matter. He thinks he's strong because he never backs down. But look at him. He's exhausted. He's scattered. He's always reacting, never acting. He's given control of his life to everyone who knows how to push his buttons. His energy is depleted on conflicts that don't advance anything. He's strong in moments, but weak over time, and people don't fear him. They've learned exactly how to manipulate him. Now picture the second man. He chooses his battles. He knows when to engage and when to walk away. He can be disrespected and remain unmoved. He can watch conflict swirl around him and choose not to participate. He's calm, focused. His energy is conserved for things and people that actually matter. And people are terrified of him, not because he fights, but because he doesn't need to. Not because he's aggressive, but because he's completely unreadable. They can't predict him. They can't control him. They can't drain him. His silence is more intimidating than the first man's threats. His absence is more powerful than the first man's presence. Which man do you want to be? Because here's what Machiavelli and Sun Tzu both understood. Power isn't about winning every battle. Power is about fighting only the battles that matter, on terrain that favors you. When conditions are right, everything else you walk away from. And that walking away, that strategic withdrawal, that refusal to engage, that comfortable silence in the face of provocation, that's what separates dangerous men from desperate ones. The desperate man needs every battle because he needs constant validation that he matters. The dangerous man walks away from most battles because he already knows he matters. And yes, not going to waste his finite energy proving it to people whose opinions do affect his life. Your assignment for the next 7 days. Practice these. When someone tries to bait you, don't take it. When drama erupts around you, don't participate. When you feel that urge to defend yourself, to explain, to react, pause. Ask yourself, does this matter? Does this person deserve my energy? Does this battle serve me? And if the answer is no, walk away. Silently. Completely. Without explanation. Watch what happens. Watch how it feels to conserve your energy instead of scattering it. Watch how people's perception of you shifts when you stop being predictable. Watch how powerful silence can be when you choose it strategically. Watch how people who used to be able to control you suddenly can't anymore. Watch how that terrifies them. Because Machiavelli was right about one thing. It's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And Sun Tzu was right about another. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Put them together and you get this. The most dangerous thing you can do is master the art of strategic withdrawal. Not because you're weak, but because you're so strong you don't need to prove it to everyone who questions it. While weak men fight every battle and exhaust themselves into a you'll be the man who walks away from what doesn't serve him. Conserving his energy, choosing his engagements, operating strategically instead of emotionally. And that terrifies people. Because they can't control you. They can't predict you. They can't drain you. Your silence becomes your power. Your absence becomes your weapon. Your discipline becomes your shield. That's the skill. That's what Machiavelli and Sun Tzu knew. That's what separates the dangerous from the desperate. And now you know it too. The only question left is, do you have the strength to walk away?